Okay, we have two questions that are kind of related, which we can both tackle. Tony said, how do you assess possible private credit crisis for brands? So we think there's been a massive overreaction to this First Brands bankruptcy. Keep in mind, this is an auto dealer. A lot of their obligations were in secured financing, so trade type. So those are get done by CLOs, and I guess Jeffries had some financings there. I don't think there's any significant exposure to private credit, but there's a massive freak out going on in private credit. And somebody probably watched me on Fox Business yesterday because I was recommending APO and KKR. And we don't think that there's a material impact on their portfolios. And I would point out, this is the beauty of other people's money. So if there is a problem, it's not their direct loss. It's not good for their funds, obviously, but it's certainly not worthy of this big sell-off. And so we have kind of almost, they seem sort of ridiculous targets, but we think we'll get there. So APO, we have a target well over 200, which does seem ridiculous, 82% upside. And KKR, these are I'm looking at our official, we have a target of 200. But we think these are really reasonable, 60% upside. We think this is just a complete freak out. And do you have a catalyst? Because believe me, these have not been good stocks to hold. They go down every day. But they're going to have earnings reports, and they're going to tell you if there's any losses, and they're going to tell you probably they have good earnings, and everything's fine. So that's why earnings season's a good time. And you might say all these things, your targets are insane, but we also pointed out on Fox Business, and we've been recommending Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley for like 2 years. And those are up like 110%. Still like them, but their upside is like 8 or 9%. So we think there's massive freak out. The economy's getting stronger, so there's not going to be substantial defaults. Good time to be in credit, as well pointed out. Do you have thoughts on First Brands or any of the private equity?
We actually have a little bit of exposure to that because we own some PSEC bonds, and they're one of the BDCs that has, it's like 1% exposure to it. Yeah, it's one of their larger positions. And they have the first lien debt, and that they're obviously potentially facing a loss with that. But I would say that we've kind of seen these situations start popping up in the past year or two where, there's some questionable, possibly criminal fraud going on, where they're using multiple assets and leveraging against them multiple times. And this is something that we often start seeing when the economy slows down. It happens, right? You can go back in time and think of all the times that it's happened in the past, where you have the Enron effect of dishonesty and people using that to over leverage and get themselves into trouble. Happened during the housing crisis all over. That's Bernie Madoff was great until 2009 proved what he was, right? And that's we're going to start seeing those things when the economy gets weaker. It's going to happen. It's not unusual, and that's the kind of credit losses that companies are going to absorb. Something like PSEC is 1% going to kill them? No, it's not the biggest challenge on their company, and it certainly isn't going to get to the level where it's going to start impacting the bonds and stuff. Same thing with CLOs. I can't remember the number right off the top of my head, but all their CLOs they have are broken up into like 517 different CLOs. So any particular company usually doesn't have a big, huge piece of it. So you get this big headline of, oh my God, it's this much money, but it's spread among so many lenders that for most lenders, it's not material at all. And defaults are going to rise. For 2021 through 2024, we saw almost nothing defaulting, and defaults were historically low. You get spoiled by that. It's nice to have, but when defaults are essentially zero, the only way for them to go is up. Our base case is that for the companies that are being honest, their balance sheets are in much stronger shape than we typically see in a slowing economy. And the big numbers, when you're looking at the grand scheme, I think we're looking at a very, very small default wave compared to what we've seen historically, like during the great financial crisis and even during the dot-com bust and during COVID. I think we're set up for a relatively mild. There's going to be those dramatic stories that are going to come out because the people who have been out there committing fraud, who have been pushing the edge, who have been doing things in the shadows, well, they're going to get caught. We'll see some of that happening and it'll be all right. Lenders know that happens. It's built into the interest rate. And that's why we charge an interest rate. Make sure that you're getting paid enough to justify whatever risk you're taking of a loss, whether that's from bad luck, incompetent management, or fraud, or whatever other reason that they don't pay back.